I want to focus, most of our discussion today, not on the Bitcoins and Moneros and privacy focused, non-sovereign cryptocurrencies. Those are very one far end of the spectrum, but really zoning in on, this world of stablecoins, theoretical central bank digital currency. But just for today, maybe we focus on stablecoins, where we're finally at a place where we have digital currencies that people want to transact for day-to-day things. They increasingly want to use those in commerce and in financial activities. And they do behave like, as you said, digital cash, and they act as kind of bearer instruments on the public internet, and it's possible for a person to kind of self-custody these things, and that raises a lot of issues. And so I'd love to hear you both talk a little bit about, from a policy maker perspective, or from a kind of a corporate accountability perspective, maybe both of those. What issues come to the fore when you have like a digital dollar stablecoin that's used on the public internet?
So from my point of view, right, a digital dollar on a public blockchain is essential for public blockchains to become enterprise usable. And that's not because cryptocurrencies aren't particularly useful, but because enterprises are inherently risk averse, right? If the model of how companies interact is basically, I have money, you have stuff, and we're going to exchange those things set to some terms and conditions, right? And as an enterprise, I want a couple of things. Number one, I want to minimize my risk. That means I don't want to convert my dollars, which I get from my customers and perhaps in retail stores, and to which I have to pay taxes on the other end of my earnings. I don't want to convert them to a different currency and then convert it back. It causes a risk. That's foreign exchange risk. Companies hate risk, unnecessary risk. So enterprises want to stay in the same currency from end to end. So by enabling stable coins on public blockchains, you're making public blockchains usable for enterprises, provided you can offer them privacy. What is exciting to me about the privacy approaches that are developing on public blockchains, especially the work we've been doing around zero knowledge proofs, is they have a potential to do two things. Number one, they make privacy practical, right? We just didn't have a practical, scalable mechanism for privacy on public blockchains previously that could handle not just a cryptocurrency, but pretty much any type of asset and even business logic. So that's making it useful, because if I have an exchange, not only do I want privacy about with whom I'm transacting and how much I'm paying, but also the terms and conditions of my deal also need to remain private. The second thing that's exciting to me is that the potential to change the way we interact with regulatory compliance in a way that's both consistent with the rules and potentially better. For the first time with zero knowledge proofs, we have this ability to prove something is true without disclosing the underlying data. Historically, all regulatory compliance has been based on, to prove something being true, you have to disclose the data. And once you've disclosed the data, it's now flowing freely across a bunch of different jurisdictions and rules. And so what I like about the potential for zero knowledge proofs is I can prove to you something is true, right? I can give you certain types of proofs that you need them, or third parties can provide proof, but the data is not out there, right? My data is not flowing freely. And when a regulator comes to me and says, I need you to show me that you did something, I can prove, thanks to blockchain records and mathematical proofs, that I did comply with the rules. And that has to me, there seems like there's great potential for positive proof of regulatory compliance, and regulatory compliance without the disclosure of all of your personal information or business information.
Right. And this is, I think when a lot of people who operate in the existing, say, financial system or in other record keeping situations or situations where you're having to certify yourself in some way, right? We've just all become so accustomed to the idea that, like, no, you have to give your records, and all this information, all this personally identifiable information. And it's like we're spraying it all over the internet. It's creating a lot of issues. And I think when people hear crypto, they're generally like, ooh, crypto bad. Like, there's kind of like this, unfortunately, this reaction that somehow if you're doing something with crypto or encryption, you're hiding something, which is really, really unfortunate because, clearly what you're articulating is, hey, we're in this digital age. There's this massive proliferation of interactions that we have as individuals and as businesses, and we want to speed that up, make that better. But like, we want to do that without having all these risks of data breaches or intrusions and zero knowledge proofs, which for the audience that isn't familiar, as you said, is just using mathematical proofs to demonstrate that something is true without sharing the underlying data. And that is, it's a major breakthrough. And this is the crypto is not just good, it's great. It actually is like critical to moving forward in the world, in the digital economy and the like.
And I believe that zero knowledge proofs, crypto made them necessary for privacy, but I believe they will have a transformational effect on data and analytics over time for exactly this reason. Why do we store too much data? And we have gotten in this mentality of thinking more data, better. It's not. More data is more liability, more risk, more privacy breaches. It is not. More data isn't always better. And if we want to steward our clients' data responsibly, we have to start thinking about less data.
Yeah, so totally. Jerry, just, I know you talk to policymakers in DC a lot. You talk to, agencies and staffers, and, you have a lot of awareness on these issues. When you there's these hearings, I know you participate in quite a few hearings as well. There's always this question of, these public blockchain digital currencies, even the stable coins that are out today, like USDC and others, there's still this sort of question of like, from a policy perspective, does this escape the anti-money laundering rules? Does this escape the requirements that the government has around the ability for law enforcement and the national security apparatus to do what it needs to do? What are you hearing on that? What do you think the current thinking is on that?
So I think that there's a spectrum of thinking on this, right? And it sort of changes from the more direct connection you have with the technology and government, where you're actually prosecuting cases or you're working on intelligence, you have a certain view, whereas folks of higher you go up on the chain, all the way up to cabinet, president, Congress, you have a different view. And I would say that at a very high level, there is misunderstanding oftentimes, there is skepticism, but it's just a matter of education. At a lower level, at a more direct contact with the technology level, there's a great deal of understanding. And there's also an understanding of what's possible and what's not possible. And that, I think, leads to good policy, right? Once you understand the parameters within what you have to work with, what you can expect to be revealed to you, what you can't, I think that leads to good policy. So right now, I would say that we're at a good spot when it comes to, say, stablecoins, because the law is pretty clear, right? So FinCEN issued guidance in May of last year, and that guidance was very clear. And so if you're a stablecoin issuer, then you're a financial institution that needs to be registered with FinCEN, and you have to know your customers, and you have to file suspicious activity reports and have an anti-money laundering program, et cetera. I think where there may be sort of questions that come up is, well, you have to know your customer, and clearly your customer is anybody who comes to you to exchange $1 for a stablecoin, or who comes to you with a stablecoin to exchange it for $1. Clearly your customer. But in between, you've got lots of different people who might come to possess that stablecoin, the same way that a dollar bill,
sure.
The bank knows who you are, and the bank knows who comes to it with $1, right? But in between, that dollar could pass lots of hands. Dollar bills, we really can't, there's nothing we can do. We can't really track those. But on a public blockchain, you can. So the question is, would at some point regulators come to the conclusion that a stablecoin issuer's customers are everybody who ever possesses that coin. And I think that's problematic for a whole host of reasons.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. And the other thing I would say, I totally agree with Paul that if we want to protect consumers and protect our own privacy, we want to limit where this information goes and where this information is reported. And so things like zero knowledge proofs are great because you can prove that you're compliant without sharing the info. But I see financial intelligence units like FinCEN increasingly think of themselves as big data operations.
Yeah.
Right? They see themselves as the people in government who are able to spot trends and spot things that need to be further investigated. And they can't do that unless they have a big data set. And so when you go to them, hey guys, great news. We can prove to you we're compliant without sharing the data. I wonder how they'll react to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, there's we have the Financial Action Task Force, guidelines on the record keeping obligations of virtual asset service providers, whether you're a cryptocurrency exchange or a stablecoin issuer, and any of the above, and it's sort of taking the rules that FinCEN had prior established around know your customer's customer, and follow that money as it moves around the financial system, and sort of superimposing that on top of digital currency. And the industry is obviously doing a lot to ultimately be compliant with that. But what's interesting to me is that there's this huge opportunity right now to simultaneously meet that record keeping obligation while enhancing the privacy preserving characteristics through the use of things like zero knowledge proofs or multiple signature escrowed access to data and other things that can be done with crypto. But regulators are not hearing anything on that. They're basically saying, no, this is the way it's been done. This is the way it works. You got to do that. And it from my perspective, this could lead to actually a mass proliferation of our PII into more places on the internet that create more honeypots for hackers. And so, the digitalization of PII and its transmission, this is one of the things we got to be able to fix. And things like zero knowledge proofs can do that, but we probably need amendments to rules or adjustments to be able to get there.